Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm the Ember and today I'm excited to share some tips to help you speed up your Blender workflow. Before we dive in, I want to take a moment to thank you all for helping me reach 1000 subscribers. Thank you so much. So if you're new here, make sure to hit the subscribe button and ring the bell so you stay updated with all my Blender tutorials. Now let's dive into the tips. To bring up the quick favorite menu or the Q menu, you can press Q and you see it says no menu items found. So say we are using subdivision modifiers a lot, what we can do instead of going over to the modifier properties, clicking the button and typing it in, is we can just click it, start to type it in, and before we press enter we can right click on the subdivision surface, then we can click add to quick favorites. Now all we have to do is press Q and you can see our subdivision surface option is there. And you can do this with basically any button in Blender. So say we want to add shade smooth to the quick favorite menu, we can right click and add to quick favorites. Now we have subdivision surface and shade smooth. So say we duplicate this cube and move it up a bit, and we want to keep doing this a few times, but we want it to be even every time. We could do this by duplicating it, then holding control, and then doing that again and holding control every time so it's the same distance. But the faster way to do this is select the cube, Shift D, move it, then you can press Shift R and it basically repeats the last action. And since our last action was duplicating and moving the cube, it now repeats that. So this is just a really fast way to repeat an action multiple times. Now say you're modeling something and you want to see it from all angles. All you have to do is press Ctrl Alt Q and it enables quad view. Now you can see when we move this, you can see it from the top view, the Y view and the X view, and also the 3D viewport. This is just a really helpful way to line things up and see what's happening in all directions. So if you've been subscribed to my channel or watched a few of my videos, you probably have seen me do this quite a few times. Basically, if you press the / button, it isolates the selected object, hiding all the other objects from view. You can also do this with multiple objects selected. So say you're far away working on something else and you're trying to line yourself up with a certain object. It's pretty hard to get a good position to be able to work on that object. So what you can do is you can press the period or the full stop button. This has to be the period on the numpad, or if you don't have a numpad, you can use the tilde key, which is just above the tab key. Then you can click and hold that and then go view selected, and that will frame the selected object. So basically, if you have a bunch of objects selected and you want to rename them all, instead of selecting one and renaming it, going to the next one and renaming it, and doing that so on until you have them all renamed, the faster way to do this is select them all, then press Ctrl F2, then this batch rename floating UI panel pops up. So we can either do from the selected objects or all the objects. I'm just going to use selected. Then in the find box we can type cube, and in replace we can type box. So look over here, when we click this, you can see all the objects with the name cube have been renamed to box. So one of my favorite pie menus is Shift Space. It brings up the tool shelf and basically you can change it to any one of these. It's basically all the ones on the side, but wherever your mouse is when you press Shift Space. So we can change this to move. Now we can move the cube. We can change it to rotate, rotate the cube, scale, transform. We can change to annotate. We can even do measure, so we can measure a distance. Then we can add a cube like this, which is actually a really handy feature. And then we can also move the 3D cursor around. So when we add a cube or any object, it adds it at the 3D cursor. So this is one of my favorite pie menus. The second pie menu I like to use is Shift S. So say we want to add this cube perfectly on top of this other cube. What we can do is tab into edit mode, select a face, we'll select this bottom one, press Shift S, then cursor to selected. It will move the 3D cursor to the middle of that face. Then we can tab out of edit mode, right click, set origin, and origin to 3D cursor. Now the origin is at the 3D cursor, basically, so when we rotate it around, it will rotate it from that point and scale from that point. Now if we select our main cube, tab into edit mode, select the face, Shift S, cursor to selected, the cursor will be there. Now we select our other cube, press Shift S and selection to cursor. You can see it puts the origin right on the 3D cursor. So now we have these two cubes perfectly stacked. And there is a bunch of other options as well. If the cursor is somewhere weird and not in the world origin, and you want to add an object in the world origin, all you have to do is press Shift S and cursor to world origin, and it puts it back in the world origin. There is heaps more pie menus, but those two are just my favorite. So basically, if we press Shift and tilde key, remember the tilde key is above the tab key, it will let us control Blender like a game with the WASD keys. So we can basically just fly around, and then if you want to go faster, you can scroll the mouse wheel up, and that makes you go a bit faster, and you can scroll it down to go slower. Then if we aim at an object and press the spacebar, it will teleport us to that object. We can also use the E and Q keys to go up and down. And then if we're above an object and we press the G key, it turns on gravity. And now we can walk around on that surface and press V to jump. I normally use this feature inside the camera. So if you go into camera view, you can actually press Shift and tilde key. And now we're actually moving the camera around with us. So if we click there, you can see the camera is positioned where we just clicked. So this is a really helpful and fast way to position the camera in a nice spot really fast. Okay, so I have thrown in a bonus tip here. So say we have a cube inside a cube and we want to be able to select that in a cube. We can't do that at the moment. But what we can do is press Alt Z and that will turn on X-ray view. Now we can click right through that object to select the cube. And you can also press Shift Z to toggle wireframe view. Another helpful shortcut is Shift Tab. That toggles snapping, so now it snaps by increments. And you can also press O to toggle proportional editing. Okay, so that was just a few of many shortcuts. The shortcuts I just showed you were a few I mainly use. I hope you learned a few shortcuts from this video. And if you like this sort of content, make sure to subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.